Hi guys, I'm Liam from WeMake, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this simple wooden box. It's perfect for storing books, CDs or anything else you might like. Tools wise, I'm going to be using a combination drill, a drill bit set, some 80 grit sandpaper, a combination square, tape measure, panel saw, miter box, and for fixings I'm going to be using 40mm 3.5s as well as 60mm 3.5s. Now these are plasterboard screws, but due to the lockdown I don't have the screws required, and these will do the job anyway. For material, I'm going to be using some 100 by 22mm. This is used on building sites for cross bracing roofs, and some 25 by 50mm, which is used for roofing batten. Like all my projects, I got this material from a site clearance, so again I didn't pay for anything, which is obviously great for me and great for them, because they didn't have to pay to get rid of it. All the plans are on the website, so go over and check that out. So to begin with, I'm going to cut all my timber to length and do my pre-drilling, and then I'm going to sand it up. I'm only going to be rough sanding it up because I quite like the rough finish. And then I will construct it all together. All right, let's get in. Now, although the miter box does like to cut things very square, I do still like to mark a square line on the piece of wood anyway, just so I can check it as I go. Because these are plastic, sometimes if you're not careful, you can cut into them, which means your lines are going to start becoming, or your saw cuts are going to start becoming out of square. Now that I've got one marked up, I like to use this as my length, so I know I need to have 6 at this length, because I've got my cutting list just over there. It's always really important to check that the end is square, like this one. It's not, so I'm going to cut a square edge on it, and that way I know everything I move from there is right. But because it's a little long for my table and I can't get my miter box there, I've marked the end up. I'm going to use this one. Now that way I can cut this one first and then come back and cut that one. Now, because I've noticed these that have come off are actually slightly smaller in width, what I want to do is make a corresponding, I want to make sure there's all one row is the same timber, so it's the same width, so when it gets to the edges it meets up quite nicely like that. So I've cut 2 long ones out. Now I'm going to cut the short ones that will go either end as well out of that same timber, so when I do screw it up I'll make sure that they're all running round. You'll see later. So now I'll pile them, see how it'll go. So it'll be like that. So I'll pile them all up together so I know when I'm coming to screw up, they're the same. Okay, so that's all the 100 by 22mm cut. Now it's to cut the battens, so they're 50 by 25. Okay, so that's all the timber cut. So now I'm going to drill it up, drill these up with a pilot bits, which will be a 4mm hole, so the screws just fit through, and then I will sand it all up, ready for constructing together. Now what you can do at this point, once you've got one marked up, to save you and to remeasure it all, put them all to their square, but you've got to make sure you hold them nice and tight so they don't move. And square your lines through them all. That's it. That's all my lines marked. So now I'll draw them up. Now it's always good to have a bit of offcut laying around so that when you come to drilling, you can drill onto the offcut. That way, if you go too deep, you're not going to be drilling the table underneath. Okay, now I'm going to sand them up, now that all the holes are drilled. Now I'm only going to be giving it a rough sand, because I don't mind the sort of more rustic effect, but it's as you want. If you want to sand it all the way down and repaint them, then you know you can. It'll just take a little bit longer. Now, one thing you really need to make sure about is to be careful for is getting splinters. So try and keep them away, or you could always even actually pull off the bigger pieces before you start sanding. But I like to make sure to try and keep the sandpaper going in that direction and keep my hands well away from it. Okay, now that that's all sanded up, I can start putting it together. Okay, so now that's all sanding up, I can start screwing it together. So I can show you on this one. I'm going to start with the base, screwing these battens on here, and then I'm going to be moving on to the sides, screwing them up, and then the ends can come on when it's all together, and then I can screw it all together. All right, brilliant, let's get on. Now I'm not going to actually pilot hole these because this softwood, I'm pretty confident that it should be fine and won't be any splitting out. But if it does start splitting, I'll look to then use a drill bit pilot hole. Now, one thing I haven't said yet is I actually want the batten on the sides to come 25mm down so that they're stackable. This will allow me for this batten then to sit on top and sit flush. So I'm going to mark that now. And the spacing between them is 25mm as well, so I can actually use a piece of this to allow for my spacing. Okay, so just realised I went wrong. You know how I said there's some thinner ones, and they're supposed to correspond with each other. So I'm going to take off one of the thicker ones off that and replace it actually with a thinner one. That way, when it wraps around, they'll all be the same. So I'll just do that now. Now that I know that one is right, I can use it to help me mark out this one and give me the spacing. Okay, now that that's both sides done, I can screw on the ends. See, by doing it this way round, actually lets me get the drill in, whereas if I had it the other way, I wouldn't have been able to fit it in once that was in. So that's why I've built it this way round. Now to hold the base on, onto the rest of it, I'm going to pilot drill some holes through into the supporting pieces, members there. So I'll be using my 4mm drill bit and the 60mm screws. I'm going to be drilling it on slight of an angle. This way I can get more material here, and it'll still go into the supporting braces. And that's it. There we have it. Simple box. And if you made it right, or if you made a couple, they should just stack quite nicely, so they're nice and easy to carry. Alright, thanks for watching. And again, the plans are online at WeMake. So yeah, go check them out. Alright, see ya.